The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. Welcome. It's Tuesday. We're here at the end of August. There's a lot going on. Many of you have already written into us asking questions. There was a media frenzy, especially on social networking over the weekend, about a possibility of a CDC whistleblower coming forward with information about the MMR vaccine. I want to let you know that we are continuing to update sources on this story. We just got off the phone with Andrew Wakefield, who is at the center of some of these allegations that are being made, and we're going to be bringing you an update on that, some information that I don't think you're hearing anywhere else in the media at the end of this hour. So stick with us. It's a pretty fascinating case. We're interested in hearing all of your opinions about it. I do want to caution everyone that none of us has concrete information yet at this point. You probably have seen on CNN that they're trying to corroborate stories as well, and I'm going to give you some insight into why people aren't able to have the be-all, end-all question mark answered at this moment in time that will hopefully shed some light on that. So unfortunately, I have to make you wait for it because we have a lot of things we have to accomplish. I want to remind you that this show is meant to be interactive. We want to know your thoughts, your feelings, your concerns, and your questions. We want to be able to help connect you with things that will help you to get to real progress. That's really the name of the game, is creating progress. We know that there's help. We know that there's hope. We know that it comes in different sizes. I'm talking about the help and the hope, but that this autism community is not one size fits all. What you need is not necessarily what I need, which is not necessarily what somebody else needs, right? So we try to cover autism from a 360-degree perspective, including some of the things that we see on social network, including how we eat, what we eat, how we pay for what we eat, the choices that we make treatment-wise, and of course, we always spend a little bit of time talking about quality ABA because there are a lot of different interventions that are out there, and while some work for a select few, the one thing that we know right now at this moment in time, scientifically proven, is that quality ABA creates progress in all of our kids that are on the autism spectrum. Guess what else it does? It creates progress in everyone, not just individuals who are on the spectrum, but it has been shown multiple times from multiple different sources to be effective in creating progress with all individuals who are on the spectrum. So that is one of the reasons why we make time for that on a regular basis. Now, I always like to remind you at the start of the show that you really want to participate with us. It's not as much fun if you don't, and we don't get as much done. Let's be honest. We need you to help drive this bus, so to speak. So Kelby is going to show you some of the different ways that you can get in touch with us, some of the different ways that you can participate and have your voice heard. We want to know what you guys are thinking about today. So Kelby's showing you that on the screen. I'll remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, lots of things to do, not the least of which is to read the blog, sign up for the free newsletter, but you can also be watching the live show, or you can be watching the most recently recorded live show, and to the side of all that, there's a series of white boxes. Put your cursor in the one that says your comments, your questions, start typing, hit enter, and it will show up on my screen, and in that way, you and I have an opportunity to have a conversation in almost almost real time, and you have an opportunity to ask our guests questions. I know that a lot of you can't watch the show live. That's okay. You've been writing in your questions, and you've been doing such a good job of letting me know exactly who you're talking about. You know, you're saying to me, I watched the guest on Thursday, Dr. Nadowski. She said this. I want to know more about that. Then I know, okay, I know who to ask. And we're getting back to you and covering those answers as quickly as we possibly can. Be patient. If we don't get to your answer within a couple of days, feel free to post it again, because sometimes we'll have a glitch and something gets lost, and I don't want you to be hanging out waiting if I don't know that you've asked a question, right? So the other thing that I like to remind you of, and this is a good time to do it, is that while we have experts who are on the show, I'm not one of them. My credential to sit here is that I'm an autism parent. So you also have to be a little patient with me, because, you know, sometimes I've got things going on too, but I want to give you answers. I know that when my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5, what I knew about autism, you couldn't have fit on the thin side of a paper, right? So I got a lot of help from parents along the way, and who steered me towards experts who helped us. And my son got the very best of quality ABA at the perfect moment in time. And I couldn't be more grateful. So I have a lot to pay forward, and I want to do that. So please take advantage of that. Use me as part of your team and set me, you know, on a research project. I kind of love that. I'll just be honest with you. That I kind of groove on that. So use that, and everything is free here. You know, when you send a question in, we're not asking you to log in. We don't know who you are unless you tell us your email address, which, by the way, we don't share with anyone. But we don't ask for a credit card, because this is not about that. This is about getting information to as many people and helping them to get to the resources as they want. All right, having said all of that, we like to start every morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to make sense of it within our world so that we can see, what does this have to do with me? Why do I need to know this? Why should I bother taking the energy to learn this? We give you first the actual definition, and then we give you a working definition that helps you to have an access point. Okay, so you see on the screen today that our phrase is joint attention. Now, for those of us who are getting a little arthritic, this is not about your elbow hurting in the morning or your knees being a little bit stiff when you're on the stairs and paying attention to your joints, okay? This is one of the first components that's going to help us to unlock social skills. I know you're like, what? How can that be? So let's take a look at our actual definition. Actual definition: joint attention, the process by which one alerts another to a stimulus via nonverbal means such as gazing or pointing. You say what? What does this mean? And this is why we have, because you go, I sort of understand what that means, but I'm not sure that I do. So let's go on to our working definition. Joint attention is the ability to share attention with another person toward an object, person, or event. So I love going to Disneyland because I love to watch kids and remember back to when my son was little. I get car sick on the rides, so sometimes I'll just sit and people watch. And my husband and son, they'll go on the rides. They don't get sick at all. So I'll sit there and I'll watch, and I see a mom walking with a 2-year-old. And I see the mom point and look and say, oh, it's Mickey Mouse. And I see the neurotypical 2-year-old look at Mickey Mouse. So there's mom looking at Mickey Mouse. There's the child looking at Mickey Mouse. And then they both look at each other like, oh, it's Mickey Mouse. And then they both look back at Mickey, and then they look at each other again, and it's this fabulous moment. It's a triangle of attention. That's joint attention. And our kids on the autism spectrum sometimes miss that developmental stage, and it can happen very early with joint attention. You know, some kids can exhibit this way before they're a year old. But some of our kids just don't do that. And what happens is, you know, it's like knitting a sweater, and you drop one stitch and you go, it's one stitch, it's not a big deal. But you get 3 rows up and now there's a hole. And sometimes if you've dropped one stitch that's in an important string, the integrity of the whole sweater is compromised. So when our kids don't learn joint attention, it's a moment, it's just one skill, but it's a skill that so many other things build on. Because how they learn to be afraid of things is by having that reaction to something. So mom looks at the dog that has the vicious teeth and it's drooling, and baby looks at the dog, and the baby is not front-loaded with fear of the dog, but the baby looks at mom and goes, oh, mom's afraid, and then the baby becomes afraid. So a fear response is going to be inhibited, and some of our kids have fear responses that are not appropriate, right? Either too far or not enough. But what about all the good things too? That mom looks at a toy and plays with the toy and she's having fun. Baby looks at mom, sees mom having fun with the toy and going, oh, and baby thinks this is hilarious and starts to link, oh, mom makes these faces and this toy is fun, and they want to play with the toy. A lot of times, think about all the things that a baby gets a reaction from other people and learns from. And if our kids are missing that triangle of attention, they will miss all kinds of educational opportunities that have to do with social things. Stop and think about the typical kid who isn't diagnosed and hasn't gotten any treatment by the time they're 5. What are they more interested in, people or things? Generally, they're more interested in things, because part of that joint attention was that they didn't link that reaction. Can we go back and fix that? We absolutely can. We can teach joint attention by making sure that we reward them for checking in with us, seeing our reaction, and having a reaction to it. In the beginning, maybe our reactions will be a little bit over the top, because that's what they were when they were babies. Think about it when mom points to Mickey Mouse to a 1.5-year-old, mom goes, oh, right? She doesn't do that to a 14-year-old. The 14-year-old will be like, what is wrong with you, right? But it's such a big reaction that it gets the 2-year-olds or the 1.5-year-olds attention. Sometimes with our 4 and 5-year-olds, we're going to be a little bit more animated in the beginning, but we have to learn how to dial it back. Believe me, I've got an 11-year-old now, and something will happen, and I'll go, oh, did you see it? And he goes, oh, mom. Right? Oh, mom. And I have to remind him it's okay to be excited about some things again. But the joint attention, absolutely key. It is the first, one of the first. Eye contact is the first, but then joint attention, next building block towards working towards social skills. If you've got a 14-year-old and you're working desperately on social skills, but you've missed this component, you've got to go back and work on it. You're going to work on it in a different way with a 14-year-old, of course, but you've got to go back and pick up this stitch. We were talking on Thursday about how some of our kids are Swiss cheese. They've got holes in what they're able to do. But when we go back in and fill in a hole, it's amazing what happens. Our kids take off, they fly. When they get it and they see why it's rewarding and they're doing it and it's a skill that they've made their own, you know, it's like there's no stopping them. And that's real progress. Okay, so joint attention. Can your child do it, or is it something that you really need to work on? It's a really important thing. Okay, moving on. We always have a question of the day for you. Our question today, I bet you can guess what it's about. We want to know, what social skills do you or your child need help with? And really, it's the full gamut. And I would guarantee that all of us have something in our social game that we need to work on. Just a couple of weeks ago, I went to a party for a dear friend who is moving, and I didn't know more than 2 people besides my husband at the party, and both my husband and I on the way down to the party were stressing about, okay, you know, brushing up on, like, at the party that you're at. I haven't been to a party where I don't know anybody in a long time. And what do you do? Like, how do you start conversations? What are the topics? And we literally were going through things in the car about, okay, well, so here are like 5 topics that are safe topics that everybody's going to be talking about. My husband always says, oh, I hate it when I go to, my husband is not a sports guy, and he hates it when he goes to a party and somebody else is trying to connect socially and they go, you know, how about those Dodgers, or how about that? And he goes, yeah, how about that? Because he's got nothing, right? But it's important that we take the time to think these things through. It's going to make us more successful. I happened to watch this last Sunday. We have a community pool, and I was sitting on the outside while my son was swimming with Nancy's son, Wyatt. And so I was just keeping an eye on things, and I was watching this social interaction between a group of adults in the pool, and how, you know, somebody new would come to the pool and they would get in the pool, and how they would try to join the conversation. And there was one pretty girl who kept making it difficult for guys to join the conversation. It was horrifying to watch. But it really brought home to me that we all struggle with something socially, and we all have difficulty. I watched one very neurotypical guy who was very nice and eventually overcame it, but there was this one pretty girl in the pool who was making it really difficult for him to join the group. But he overcame it, and we need to give these skills to our kids so that they can overcome those things as well. So write in, let's talk about what we want to work on, and we'll see if we can get an expert to talk to us about how we work on that. Okay, we always have a topic of the week. Can you guess? Do you know what the topic of the week is already? You should by now. We're talking about social skills, social game. How do we learn the ins and outs of what to do to get what we want socially? It's really not about, I know a lot of people get concerned that we're, training people on the autism spectrum to get along. And I really don't focus on it on that way, because we're not going to learn things that are not useful to us. We're not going to continue to do them if they're not useful to us. But I know I've had the experience as a mom of having my child lay on the floor of somebody else's house and cry and say, why won't they play with me? What am I doing wrong that they won't play with me, right? And then, you get real serious about, oh, we're going to crack this nut. We're going to figure out how we make this happen, because he wanted to make friends. I've only met a couple of people on the autism spectrum who didn't want to have friends, who said, I just don't see what the pleasure is in it. And one of those people subsequently made a friend and said, oh man, I didn't realize that this could be this good. Now I understand why it's so important to have friends. And, friends are not the only thing in a social game, right? Our ability to make a living nowadays runs on social issues, being able to get information, being able to talk to people, ask questions, all runs on social. And certainly there is a portion of academia that deals with social skills as well. So, and certainly if you want to have a relationship that is romantic, right? Social skills. And a lot of our teenagers on the autism spectrum are trying to figure out, how do I make that all work? So we're going to be talking about social skills all this week. Now, some of the different things that we have planned for you today. Juan Ronderos is going to be with us today, and he is starting a new segment. I believe it is next Friday that it's happening for the first time. That we're calling Autismo y Familia, that will be all in Spanish. You'll be able to see that on Fridays. It'll be posted on our YouTube channel by 3 o'clock. Juan is with us today to talk about, we've talked with him before about what are the warning signs for autism. When do you need to know that, that we have to do something more about this? But sometimes just knowing that is overwhelming, and you think, well, what's going to happen then? It's like, I'll get the diagnosis, and then what's going to happen? So Juan's going to help us to demystify what the process is when you go in to get the diagnosis and what happens afterwards, so that you don't have to be afraid. It's really when the good stuff starts to happen. So we want to help people to get over the obstacle of getting to that moment. We also, last Friday, were able to tape an interview with Nadi Nowecki. She is an amazing young woman with an event coming up that's called Jazz Hands. It's something that she's done before, but she's got a new one that's coming up, and she's going to tell us what this is about, and you're going to see that a little bit later on in the show. And then we are going to have Amanda Smith with us, and she is an amazing young woman who is working on a project that I think is going to interest all of you, called Elephant in the Room. She's doing a study about how do we tell our kids with autism, and when do we tell our kids with autism that they have autism? How do we go about this? What's the proper way to do it? What's the moment? What are the words that we use? And she's looking for people to participate in this. So we're going to be talking with her about that and give you some information if you want to be involved in that study, that you can be. So all of that, and of course, as I mentioned a little bit later on in this hour, we're going to give you an update that we got this morning from Andrew Wakefield, that you've all been seeing in the news, that there are reports that there is a CDC whistleblower who is coming forward with information about vaccines and a possible cover-up. And devastating to hear this, because what is being alleged is that it is more than 300, that they knew, that the CDC knew back in 2003, that as a result of their studies, that there was more more than 300% increase in the risk of children who are African American, especially boys, getting a diagnosis of autism after a vaccine shot with the MMR. So you've been hearing it in the social media. Mainstream media has said we're looking to corroborate this, and we have some new information about that a little bit later on in the hour. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. But first, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, Juan Ronderos Torres is going to be here with us talking about what you do when you already know that your child is exhibiting some symptoms that are concerning you. What are the next steps that you take to get to the help and the support? So stick with us.
Hi, I'm Ryan with Autism Research Group. We study ways to improve the lives of kids with autism. One of those ways is teaching safety skills, such as what to do if they get lost. We hit the streets to find out if anybody knows the correct answer on how to teach a kid what to do if they get lost. You're teaching a child
what to do if they get lost.
Yeah, you're trying to make them independent so they have the skills.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, give them a compass. Code name's good idea. Centurion.
We always have this whistle.
Oh, I'd also tell the kid, don't get scared. You're gonna be all right, man. This is just the world. This is planet Earth. You're at home here. As long as you're on planet Earth, you're at home.
As long as you're on planet Earth, you're home. This guy's a genius. With that flawless logic, he just solved our homeless problem. And as for the unique sounding whistle, although very cool, it'll probably only work if you're in close proximity. And a compass?
I have her call me.
Yeah, she doesn't have a phone. Parents are like, you're too young, you don't need a phone.
Establish some sort of like meeting place.
What if they can't find a meeting place? Because sometimes the kids get nervous when they get lost.
Yeah.
So like a backup plan, plan B.
Yeah, I don't know. No, not really.
Let them go and find a new kid. Or
Yeah, I've got a different one. Yeah.
There's not much you can do.
There is stuff you can do.
Right?
That's right, there is stuff you can do. In 2012, myself, along with my colleagues, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox and Dr. Adele Nadowski, published a study in the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis on teaching kids what to do when they get lost. The study demonstrated how 3 simple things, rules, role-playing, and praise, were effective in establishing these help-seeking behaviors. The benefit of this method is it doesn't require the child to have a cell phone or to have to locate a meeting place, which might be difficult if they're in a place like Disneyland. So once again, our method included rules, role-playing, and praise. Let's head back outside and learn about some of these rules.
They should yell out loud. Can't find my mom, help me.
Maybe yell out and scream for help.
All right, scream really loud,
Correct.
and if that doesn't work, then,
I don't know.
well, they could seek help from someone.
Find an adult.
Yeah, go to a vendor, and say I'm lost.
Find an adult, like a police officer or a fireman or an employee in the store, and tell them, and maybe they can help you contact your parent. It really is that simple. You don't need to get your kid a cell phone. You don't need to establish a meeting place that they might not be able to find when they're lost and panicking. And you definitely don't need to give them a compass. All your kid has to do is 3 things. First, yell mom or dad real loud. 2, if that doesn't work, find an employee. And then 3rd, tell the employee they're lost. If they can't locate an employee, then tell them to find a mother with children, because that's probably the safest person to approach. I'm not saying that most men are predators, but most predators are men. That is a fact. I've read it in a fortune cookie. All right, so you've gone over the rules with your kid, and you've quizzed them, and they're able to tell you the correct responses so they understand the rules. But is that enough? How do you know they're gonna perform correctly in a real-world setting? You need to get out there and find out if they can actually do it. So you'd go over the rules and tell them, like, do this, do that, but how would you know if they actually knew what to do? If you wanted to shoot a basketball, and I just told you, oh, when you shoot a basketball, do this, this, and this.
I never practiced.
You never practice, yeah, so it doesn't matter how many times we go over the rules or how well you can repeat them back to me. It's not going to change until you get on the court and practice.
Maybe do like a little skit with them.
Like a role play?
Role play, yeah.
Your child, you're lost in the toy aisle.
Okay.
What do you do? I'm an attendant, walking around.
I'm lost, I don't know where my mom is.
And then once you practice, you just like praise them, give them feedback, like, good job, you did it.
Reinforcing it.
Yes, this woman wins the prize for best comment. She pointed out the most important part of learning. reinforcement. Now, in our study, we used praise, but for your kid, you might have to use something else. You might have to buy them a treat, a toy, take them to their favorite restaurant where they can eat unhealthy food and run around and climb through plastic tunnels that have the unmistakable scent of urine, and then play games spending $20 to get a plastic little spider ring that they will eventually lose in a ball pit. The point is, you need to reward your child for correctly demonstrating what you've been teaching them.
Okay, I'm gonna call her. Hello, your child, Ryan Autism is missing. There you go.
Woohoo!
Yay!
So you tested it out
I'll
in the
try.
store to make sure I knew it. I had the rules,
Yes.
we role played it, and you made sure I knew it, and then like you said, good job, and all that. Now we're good to go.
We're good to go.
All right,
Done?
high five right there.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Give your child the rules, get out there and practice, and reward your child for responding correctly. For more information, please visit us online at autismresearchgroup.org. I'm Ryan Bergstrom. Thanks for watching. Yes, ding, no. Yes, this woman wins the first. Yes, this woman. Yes, this woman wins the best. Yes, this woman wins the first place. Yes, this woman with. Why can't I say woman? Yes, this woman wins. What's the line? Yes!
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're so lucky because we have Juan Ronderos Torres with us. What was the middle name too? Juan?
Jose.
Jose.
Yes.
It sounds so much better when he says
Getting
it.
way better.
I'm working on it in my spare time. But anyway, Juan is here with us to talk about a couple of different things. You are the head of, the director of, I always give you a
Manager.
The manager.
Yes.
No, he's the director of Card Espanol. So he's doing a new segment for us that will launch next Friday, a week from this Friday.
Correct.
So the first Friday, it's the 5th, it will launch for the first time. You'll be able to watch it on our YouTube channel at 3 o'clock. By 3 o'clock on Friday, it will be up on the YouTube channel, and it will be a segment entirely in Spanish.
Español, yes.
Espanol. So thrilled about that. We do a lot of things here, Juan, that I get excited about. I think I'm more excited about this than almost anything else, truly, because we've known for a while that we needed to do it, and if we were going to wait for me to be completely fluent in Spanish, we were going to wait way too long. Let's just say that, right? So thrilled to be able to have you on board and doing that for us. So in the past, when you've been here, we've talked a little bit about what some of the warning signs are for autism.
Yes.
Because we know that that's something that we need to make more people aware of, what those signs are. But I started thinking about it in the last couple of weeks that sometimes parents are so overwhelmed because if you're seeing some signs of autism, already there's some other challenges in your life, right?
Correct. Yes.
And then you think, okay, then I have to go get an assessment. How's that going to work? What's that going to be like? And then what happens? And a parent was describing to me that it feels like you're going to drive off a cliff and you don't know where you're going to land. So we've got Juan here to talk with us a little bit about what actually happens, what the steps are, and you've got a handy dandy card that people can also get that can break it down for them as well.
Yes, so after going to all the health fairs, right, and dealing with the Spanish population, mainly here in California, most of them, unfortunately, they don't have insurance, private insurance, right, or they have the very minimum. So they tell me, how can I get help if I suspect that my kid has autism, right? Okay, I learned the signs, right, because our main goal is to empower the families and the parents of get educated and know the signs. So once they learn the signs of autism and they say, okay, I suspect my child might have autism, what do I do? So we created this brochure that is called What to Do If Your Child Has Autism, right? It's, again, 100% in Spanish, and it's basically telling them, guiding them to the regional centers of what do I need to do and how do I need to get the help. So basically, is look, don't be afraid even if your status, right, is not legal or illegal, right? Because most of them, they don't have papers or a green card, and they're afraid to go get help because they don't know that the help is available or they don't know their rights for the child. So this is telling them, go to original centers, ask for help. Your child has a right to get this treatment and the diagnosis, right, and get an intake evaluation. That's what it's called, right? and is free of charge.
Now, we should at least stop for a second and talk about that. That's in California. In California,
That's in
we have
California,
the regional
yes.
center system.
Right.
And really important information, because I don't think that I knew that if your child is here on this soil, regardless of what your status is,
Exactly.
your child is entitled to treatment through the regional
Right.
center.
'Cause-
That's a big deal. That's
Yes.
very important for families to know.
Right, and they don't know. Most of them, they don't know, and so they hide, and they say, well, I can't take him there because this is owned by the government, right, the regional centers, and they're afraid what's going to happen to them. But the truth is that the law says that since the child came here with the parents, he didn't have a say on coming here, so he has the right to get all the service and treatment.
What if parents are afraid, though, that if their status is such that if they're afraid that they're going to get deported if they come to the regional center?
Yes, it won't happen.
Okay.
Because the intake is all about the child. The
Okay.
focus is on the child.
So they're not asking those questions?
No, they're not asking those
Okay.
questions.
That's good to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, because you and I had a conversation. I had seen a movie recently that we covered here on the show that centered on a 14-year-old boy in New York City. And this was they were making it right around the time that Avante went missing, and but he went missing, and in the movie, this had never occurred to me. It's just crazy how sometimes you can be like so thick-headed that these things don't occur to you. The child went missing, 14-year-old went missing, and the mom didn't want to report it to the police because the dad was saying, we'll be in trouble, our papers aren't in order, I don't want to be deported. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's just one more layer of things that had not occurred to me and my thick-skulled brain that people are having to go through that. And we really want to drive home the point that if your kid needs help, your kid needs help. Let's not worry about the rest of that. Let's make sure that we get your child the help and support that they deserve. So let's none of us stand in the way of that. Okay, so they'll go to the regional center. The regional center will do the intake, and then what happens?
So, again, is getting them familiar with what are their rights, right? Because, for example, here you have the right to choose your health provider, right? Once, let's say, a child was diagnosed with autism, so the regional center usually, gives them a provider, but they don't know what their rights are, because again, they assume because they're here sometimes illegally that they might not have any right, the child, but they have a right to choose their own provider. They have a right to choose a provider that speaks their own language.
There you go.
So then that's where we come in. We can help them,
because the card has therapists
that speak Spanish.
That speak Spanish.
Yes.
Because I know that other families are saying, well, I want these therapies, but if you're going to force my child to do this in English, how are we really going to be able to implement if they are not English speaking? It doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
You need to be able to learn it in the language that you choose.
Right. And again, navigating, the regional centers or school districts can be very difficult. So the knowledge is power, right? So the more we educate these families on what are their rights and to be persistent and take no for an answer, then the more successful they're going to be at getting help for their child. And in some cases, if the family is not very competent and very educated, we can help them with like legal support.
Yeah.
Right. So we refer them to some very good lawyers that special needs. They're specialized in special needs, and they'll help them advocate and get the help that they need.
It's so important that people know that there are resources out there. And every time I learn about a new resource that I didn't know about, I think, how could I not have known about this?
Right.
But you don't know about something until you know about it. And sometimes that means coming into the community and meeting somebody else and having them tell you because if you don't even know what question to ask,
right.
How are you going to ask the question?
Yes.
Okay, so we can be helpful here at Autism Live, and you can be helpful with Card Espanol in terms of hooking people up with resources.
Yes.
And the regional center will also be helpful in getting you hooked up with a provider, but you brought up the wonderful point that you have the choice of which provider you want. The regional center will say, here's the provider,
exactly.
and that may not be the right provider for you.
Exactly. So
you do have some choice.
So you have some choices, and also now I'm getting ready to meet with the 211 call center.
Yes.
Yes, because
we had Patricia Herrera on a couple of weeks ago.
I know. I saw her.
Lovely woman.
Yes, she was very good.
Yeah.
And she wants to get involved to help her. So maybe some of those clients that we get, or those potential clients, we can refer them to her because she's very good. That screening tool that she has has a lot of value.
Yes.
And it's free of charge. So So right there and then, that's also going to be a very good tool.
Well, and also dealing with a regional center, because that's in and of itself, the regional center is overrun. You know, I mean, bless the regional center. They paid for all of my son's therapy. So, you know, I don't have bad things to say about the regional center. But it's a machine that moves at a pace that can be frustrating, and that if you don't understand what's happening, you know, you feel like you've been thrown under a bus. So having somebody to advocate for you, and Patricia says you call the 211, they get on the phone with you, and then they conference in the regional center, and right then, you don't have to make an appointment, and they get it taken care of. Love that.
Yeah, that's very hands-on, and it'll be great because that'll help us with all the clients that get falling through the cracks, right?
Right.
So hopefully we can work something out with the 211, and it'll be a great partnership.
Okay, so we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to come back and just recap everything that we said, because we gave you a lot of information, but we're going to do it in a very succinct way so that we just remind you all of those things. So don't go anywhere. This is important stuff.
What is autism?
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 I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to just
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
Abstract.
Awesome. Love. The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these three words. There is hope.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here with Juan Ronderos Torres, and he is the manager for Card Espanol. We were just going over some tips to know things to know after you've recognized that your child has some symptoms of autism, the steps that you're going to take so that you know good things are going to happen. So, and this is particular for the state of California because we're talking about regional centers. So go through us what the steps are after you start to recognize that your child has symptoms.
Okay, so once you recognize your child has symptoms, you should go to a regional center, okay? And California has 21 regional centers, and go and ask your local regional center for help, okay? They'll give you an intake, right? And regardless of your legal status, right? You deserve help, you know, the help from the regional center, which is free. Your child does, actually.
Qualifies.
Yes, qualifies. So don't be afraid of that. And once you do, then you have several rights, right? Your child has several rights. You got the right to choose a provider, okay? You got a right to choose a provider that speaks your own language, okay? And you got the right to change providers if you're not happy with the provider you're getting.
Wonderful.
Okay? So educate yourself. Don't be afraid. Go get the help that your child needs.
And if you're in the Los Angeles area, you have a particular resource in that you can pick up your phone and dial 211, and they will help you to navigate all of that.
Right.
But if you're anywhere in the state of California, tell them the website that they can go to be able to be hooked up to you and to the Center for Autism.
Okay, yeah, you can visit us at centroparaautismo.com. Okay, and then there has all our contact information. You can contact me, and we can also contact you with some legal help if you need some legal help. Okay. So, because it's very important to navigate the regional centers.
But the important thing is to not be afraid to reach out and get help. There is funding, there are resources here in the state of California. If you are in the rest of the country, maybe the first phone call that you need to make is, if you're Spanish speaking, perhaps is to the Mexican consulate in your state?
Yes, yes. I would encourage you to contact the Ventanilla de Salud, or each Mexican consulate. That would be a very helpful resource for you to find information on how you can get help in your each particular state.
Good information. Want to remind you that starting on the 5th of September, which is a Friday, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you will be able to tune in on YouTube to see Juan doing his new segment, Autismo y Familia.
Yes.
And it will be all in Espanol. Wonderful, wonderful new addition to our programming.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, thank you for having me, Shannon. Pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
All right. We're going to miss you because we won't have him on Tuesdays anymore because he's going to be on Fridays. But you guys will be able to tune in and get your fill of Mr. Torres. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be back to talk about this CDC whistleblower, the thing that's been all over social media over the weekend. And we've got a little bit of an update for you that I think you're going to find interesting. Stick with us.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, you know, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but you know, we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT,
What
yeah.
did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, you know, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle. Without that, they wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. You know, we underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back. I mentioned at the start of the show that there's been quite a bit of controversy over the weekend playing out on social media having to do with an alleged CDC whistleblower by the name of Bill Thompson, Dr. Bill Thompson. According to a video that came out from the Autism Media channel that was hosted by Andrew Wakefield, this CDC whistleblower over a period of time called an individual who is a known autism advocate who has a son on the autism spectrum. And in the words of this father, this CDC whistleblower kind of made him his priest and admitted that he had been part of a cover-up by the CDC to hide results that showed some causation of the MMR vaccine as early as sometime between 2001 and 2003. He allegedly gave documents to this father that were proof of what the study actually revealed. And in the video, if you watch on the Autism Media channel, it suggests that not only was there causation for the MMR vaccine, that it increased if it was given within a certain time period when children were younger, it increased their chances of having an autism diagnosis, but also, and this is very incendiary, that it allegedly had more than 300, I think it was 304% increase if they were African American male children. A significant more likelihood of getting an autism diagnosis after the MMR vaccine. So the Autism Media channel has come forward with this report, and there has been quite a buzz about it. There was an article, there is a portion of CNN where people from the community can post things. Someone posted about this, an article talking about these allegations, and someone else from the community suggested that CNN needed to take it down because they suggested that perhaps there isn't enough information about this. CNN did take it down for a period of time. They have posted it. You can find it on their CNN pages for their community pages. However, they have posted a disclaimer saying, we are checking the veracity of this to see whether or not it's true. We saw the report. I did call and speak to Andrew Wakefield this morning, and I had some questions because on the video, all we see is the father who's listening to the audio tape, and on the audio tape, this person says that they are Bill Thompson and that they were part of a cover-up. But my question was, do we have proof that he is who he says he is? Dr. Wakefield assured me that he has spoken to him several times, he has looked at the documents, and that as far as he is concerned, it is in fact Dr. Bill Thompson. I asked if Dr. Bill Thompson has a plan to come forward, because at this point, Dr. Bill Thompson has not said, yes, that is me, or no, that isn't me. He said that at this moment in time, and again, this is coming from Andrew Wakefield on a phone interview that I had with him just before the show started this morning, he said that at this moment in time that Bill Thompson does not have any intentions to speak with the media, that it is his intention to disclose this information to to Congress and to the office of Bill Posey, because what they are looking for is a full hearing by the Oversight Committee. That they're not seeking to make this a media circus, but they're going to attempt to go through proper channels, and that none of that can happen while they are in recess. So I guess we are all left to sit and wonder and speculate until such time that Dr. Bill Thompson does come forward to Bill Posey's office and to Congress. But there is no date set for him to speak in front of Congress at this moment in time. So there's more questions than there are answers. It's certainly incendiary. A lot of people screaming a lot of different things on social media. We will wait and see, because more is to be revealed. So stick with us. We're going to go to a break, but if something more happens, we will let you know.
What is autism?
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 I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to just
Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism.
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
is a movement.
Unpredictable.
Abstract.
Awesome. Love. The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these three words. There is hope.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're so thrilled because we have with us in the studio right now Nadi Nowecki. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
She is a beautiful and talented young woman who I met a couple of months ago at Stephanie's Day, and we've talked about what an exciting day that was.
I know.
But you were at the fair, the resource fair, and you came up to the booth and you said to me, I've got this wonderful thing that I'm working on, and I was so excited about it that I said at some point when you've got your date, we want to have you come and tell our viewers what you're doing. So tell them what you told me.
Okay. Hello. So my name is Nadia, as we already said, and Jazz Hands concert series is what we're talking about. The one coming up is September 13 is part 2, and what Jazz Hands is it's a nonprofit that I started to give individuals with autism who are musically inclined a platform to express themselves and to show their talents, because I came across a young man, because I'm a behavior interventionist, so I came across a young man in my work, and he has the ability to like hear a song one time and then play it on the piano. And I was like, wow, like why doesn't he have a place to perform? And then I was like, why can't I just create a place for him to perform? So minutes later, I was drafting like a rough skeleton for a program of what became the first Jazz Hands event, which was on May 25th this year, and it was really, really successful. It was small and intimate, and it was like very like it was cozy. It was a great event, the first one. The second one, which like I said, which is on September 13, is going to be bigger.
Okay.
It's going to be at Electric Lodge, and which is in Venice, so you can go to the beach right after. And so that's what Jazz Hands is. So Jazz Hands Concert Series Part 2 is what I'm working on.
And I think it's you saw a need and you decided to fill it. And so that's a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
So I know that you've already been able to line up some things that are going to happen at this concert that's happening on the 14th. And again, that's at
13th.
13th. It's 9/13/14 is the date.
9/13/14.
It's at Electric Lodge, which is on Electric Avenue in Venice, California. It's from 2 to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And people need to RSVP.
Yes.
We should say that. You need to go to jazzhandsforautism@gmail.com. I'm going to say that again, jazzhandsforautism@gmail.com.
Yep.
And then who do we already know is going to be performing on that day?
Alex Hale, he's a liaison for the Ohio, the Cleveland Autism Speaks, and he's a guitarist, and he's performed like a few events with Autism Speaks, so he's going to be performing. And from the first, we have a couple people from the first Jazz Hands events who are going to be performing, and we have a rapper.
Okay.
We have guitarists, we have singers, we have drummers. It's going to be fun.
It's a wonderful idea. And we've had Alex Hale on the show before.
Okay.
He is an amazing and inspirational young man. And so we're excited that that he's going to be taking part in this. Now, is there a charge for admission to get into the...
it's free to the public.
Okay. So a wonderful opportunity for people to come out, really celebrate some wonderful music and some individuals who are on the autism spectrum creating that music.
Yes.
Nadi, you're a remarkable young woman doing remarkable things. Where do you see this going? What's the end game?
Well, I have like a few avenues that I would want to take it. I eventually want to become a talent agency where we have individuals with autism who like play different instruments and have like different musical skills. So that's one of our goals with it, and we eventually want to have like programs in schools, or we like like music programs,
Wonderful. So if there are individuals who are out there who are watching, who either are on the spectrum and they are musically inclined, or they have a child who's musically inclined, they can contact you at jazzhandsforautism@gmail.com for a concert somewhere down the road, whether it's a year from now or 2 years from now. They can be in contact with you to maybe be a part of this. And in the meantime, all of you who are in the Southern California area and can get there on 9, 13, 14th, on September 13th.
It's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Go to Electric Lodge. The address is 1416 Electric Avenue, Venice, California. The zip is 90291. And remember that you should RSVP because you got to make arrangements for how many people are going to be there.
Oh, and there's going to be refreshments. There's going to be cupcakes, and there's going to be fruit-infused water.
Wow, we like that.
Yes.
So again, jazzhandsforautism@gmail.com.
Yes.
Nadi, thank you so much for all the things that you're doing. We think this is a wonderful idea, and we look forward to hearing more as you grow this idea into what it can be and what it will be. So
thank you.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
We're going to be back with more Autism Live after these messages. Stick with us.
Hi, welcome to Camp Discovery, a free-to-play suite of fun, interactive learning games for kids 2 and up, designed by experts in autism. Camp Discovery will open your early learner to a world of new skills, shapes, numbers, colors, locations, emotions, and more. Let's get started.
Please choose a level.
Objects. First, Camp Discovery's Intelligent Preference Assessment determines your child's preferred reward for choosing correctly. Okay, got it. Let's play. Camp Discovery creates a motivating learning environment for your child by minimizing incorrect responses and maximizing successful ones.
Find the shoes.
Respond correctly and your child is rewarded with their favorite animations.
You did it.
Respond incorrectly and our unique prompting system guides your child to the correct answer by making it the largest choice.
That's not it. Try again. Way to go.
Continue to answer correctly and the size gradually reduces until the child makes the correct choice independently.
You win.
Success! Rewards motivate learning. Complete a round and your child is rewarded with a fun mini-game. Track your child's progress with easy-to-read graphs. Multiple settings options allow you to customize Camp Discovery to your child's unique needs. All this in one single app, the Camp Discovery app, available for free on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon Store.
Welcome back to Autism Live. So you got an opportunity to see Nadi Nowicki, a wonderful, wonderful event, Jazz Hands. We thank her for coming in and being able to film that interview with us on Friday. Right now, we're going to take a break and go to the A Word. This is the ongoing documentary being made by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. We get to have a little window into his life as early intervention starts and to see not only how it affects him, but how it affects the entire family. So take a look. This is the A Word.
A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W.
Talking a lot this morning.
Now I down my pieces next time.
Won't you?
No say with me.
That's right, kiddo. Very good.
Okay, Jack Riley, one more minute. Say okay. Okay. Thank you. Do you want to play something else for now? What do you want to play?
Pancake.
You want to play pancakes? Oh, is this the sign for pancakes? What do you want to work for, Jack Riley? Do you want to work for puzzle, for trains, for jumping on the bed? What do you want to work for? More jumping? Okay.
Pancake. Pancake.
Okay. Sit down. Sit down here, though.
Pancake.
You want pancakes? Can you say that better? Say, I want pancakes.
I want pancake.
Should we go see where the pancakes are then? Okay. All right. Let's go find Dad. Come on. Come with me. Walk with me. And we'll go find Dad, okay? All right. Can you open the door? Turn. There you go. Nice. Let's go see where those pancakes are. Say, I'm hungry. Ask you quick questions, okay? All right. Okay, look. Okay. What's your name? No. What's your name? Nice job. How old are you? Good job. Sit down, though. Okay. Where do you live?
Jessica teaches Jack Riley other social ID questions such as where do you live and what's your last name.
There you go. Nice job. Here you go. Slow down. There you go. Hi. Aww.
You look cute. I love you.
Group kiss. Group kiss. Ready? 1, 2. Oh, nice hands.
Nice hands. Nice hands. Nice hands.
Nice hands.
Nice hands get you more attention than bad hands.
Big brother. Who's big brother?
Who's a big brother?
Yes. Where's the little sister?
Where's the little sister?
Where? Is she here? Is that
Right
little sister?
here.
There
Right,
she
that's
is.
right.
Can she have a kiss? Can little sister have a kiss? Thank you.
I hope. We'll hope.
Jack Riley is needing less prompting to appropriately gain attention. Jessica only gestures to get him to ask. They introduced the skill about 7 weeks ago, and it's becoming less contrived and is occurring naturally in situations. Here's a look from 7 weeks ago, when Jessica first introduced gaining attention. In the beginning, she tempts Jack Riley with an item he wants, then prompts him the whole way, gesturing and physically showing him what to do and what to say.
Jessica. I want pancakes. Hey, look at me when you say it. Say, I want pancakes.
As time goes by and the skill becomes more natural, the prompting will completely fade away.
Ready? Okay, show them how you can use a straw. You gotta go all the way. Show me. There you go. Good job.
Feeding used to be very time-consuming and difficult for Cheryl and Mike. Jack Riley would swat away food fed to him and would refuse to self-feed. He now feeds himself and even uses a fork. His diet, though, is still limited, but it's growing. Drinking has also been an issue for Jack Riley. He's typically only drank out of baby bottles or bottles with a hard nipple top. They've tried getting Jack Riley to drink from a cup, but every time they would present it, he would try to lap it up like a cat, anticipating all the fluid to come rushing at him. Now they have introduced drinking from a straw, so he has an item to drink from that is age appropriate.
Now suck it up. You want to do that again?
Yeah.
Want to do that again?
One more time, and then you can play.
Okay.
Yay! Very good, Jack. Here you go.
You guys got that exact same pitch level there. I don't know how you duplicate it.
Do you want the purple iPhone? Okay.
Okay, what's the matter?
You can have applesauce.
Hey.
You can have it. You can have it. Come here. Can you show me? Bite for mommy.
Your turn. Do you not want? Jack Riley, say, I don't want banana. Okay. What do you want then? What do you want then? I want.
Okay. We have a spoon, Daddy.
One of the food items Jack Riley eats a lot of are bananas. For some reason, though, seeing a banana really upsets Jack Riley. He enjoys eating it, but hates the sight of it. One of the issues is that biting solid food is very aversive to him.
Fear of the banana. Someday we'll tell him he eats one every day.
More awareness than it was in the yogurt, so we have to go in baby steps with it. That's fine with me.
This is history. I might drink the whole thing.
With like no prompting, no.
Spit off
Yeah,
this.
you're right.
Okay, kiddos. See ya. Have a good weekend.
Say thanks, Miss Jessica.
You say bye. Hey, you say bye, Jessica.
Look at her. Where is Jessica? Where is Jessica? There she is.
Thank you. Oh, thanks.
Just in case you were wondering.
You're Jessica. You are.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Have a great weekend,
See ya.
Jessica.
That was the A Word, and you can watch this entire series either in little increments or the entire thing on their very own YouTube page. My favorite moment in that particular video is when they're showing him the banana and he's flipping out and he's whining and carrying on and clearly in distress, right? And they're trying to negotiate through that moment. And fortunately, everybody stays calm. Nobody takes it personally. And then they ask him, what do you want? And so he's, and it looks like we're going to get to meltdown in just a second, right? There's all the markings of the meltdown. And then they say to him, what do you want? And because he has enough language skills now, if they had tried to do that 6 months ago, this moment would have still gone to a meltdown, right? But they've been working, and he has enough language skills that he says, I want, and then he pauses for a second because he realizes everybody's listening to him. And he says, I want applesauce. And they go, okay. And he says, oh. And there's just that little moment there when, that connection is made. Oh my gosh, all I need to do is ask for the applesauce and say no to the banana. I don't have to flip out. And then he's back to being a happy camper, and he's got the new skill of being able to eat on a straw. And I love that they demonstrate how they teach him how to suck on a straw. It's just brilliant because it doesn't have to be hard, right? Sometimes, we feel like we're going to climb Mount Everest, and then it's like, oh, that wasn't so hard. Why didn't I think of that? For the longest time, when we were trying to get my son to take a pill instead of having to mash and grind them and mix them in with, right? You've all been there. And, and you can do a pill swallowing clinic. CARD does those, and other providers do that, where they start with something small and go through all of that. And I thought, oh, that just sounds like Mount Everest to me. And a friend of mine had a pill swallowing cup, which is something you do as one of the steps in the pill swallowing. And we had waited so long that really we could just skip over. The friend said, oh, I have a pill swallowing cup. And her son, who's a friend of my son, he learned how to do it last week. And I said, you can take pills? And in front of Jem, he said, yeah, I take my pills, and it's no big deal. And we went home, and she lent us the cup, and Jem said, I'm taking my pills today. So there was that peer element of it, and the cup just, and it happened. And I had thought that we were going to be, grinding pills when he was 14 and sending him off to high school with ground pills. You know what I'm saying? And it was over in 30 seconds. It was like, oh, he doesn't have to have his pills ground anymore. Okay. But sometimes these things loom large in our heads. But I love seeing that moment when Jack Riley gets it. Does that mean he's never, ever going to throw another hissy, that he's never going to, again? No, of course. Because there are going to be times when he's going to feel like his needs aren't being met and he's going to push that button again. But the more we reinforce, if you use your words, you're more likely to get things, then it's going to diminish, until he's going to get to the point where he's going to say, as my son does to me, why are you freaking out? It's not that big of a deal. This is not the end of the world. You need to take a breath and calm down. My son will say that to me, right? And you go, holy Christmas, this is cool. And by the way, that equation has the flip side too. We went a couple of years ago, it was our 10th wedding anniversary, and so my husband and my son and I went to Las Vegas, and we went to see the Mystere, Cirque du Soleil Mystere, and we got there a little bit early because we heard there was a little bit of a pre-show where they interact with the audience. We thought our son would like that, and there was a young woman that I have no idea what her diagnosis was, but she clearly had some issues and was not totally vocal, and she was in a wheelchair, and her parents were sitting with her in the handicap section, and she began to make a bunch of noise, and they tried to quiet her, and they were like, stop it, stop it, stop it, and she was trying to get out of the wheelchair, and they were trying to strap her into the wheelchair, and it was just this horrible struggle, and eventually she got out of the wheelchair and she walked away. She needed to go to the restroom, but she didn't have a way of telling them without a 15-minute freak out. And all I could think was, I've been in those parents' shoes, because it was drawing a lot of attention for audience members. And then you get into that moment where you're like, I don't know what to do. Did we just spend all this money? We're not going to be able to see the show. Do we have to leave? Are we upsetting people? Is this going to happen during the show? You get caught up in that treadmill and you miss the fact that your kid is trying to tell you something, and that sometimes it's not, I'm so unhappy with you, you're a bad parent, I don't want to be here, and I don't know why we bought these tickets. Sometimes it's just, I need to go to the restroom. And when you think about it from that young woman's perspective, if every time I had to go to the bathroom, I had to scream for 15 minutes before you would let me, that's a terrible way to live. It's a terrible way to live. So as parents, it's incumbent upon us to do as much as we can to stay calm in the moment and recognize that all behavior is communication, and to not take it personally, but when it's happening, to ask ourselves, what's being communicated here? What's being communicated, and how can I give more communication skills to this individual to help them to get their needs met? That's really what we need to be focusing on in the moment. Not that, oh, this is embarrassing, oh, I don't know what to do, oh, I don't have skills, why can't my life be like everybody else's? All that's running, believe me, I know. But in order to get to the good stuff, we have to let the other tape run as well. What are they trying to say to me? What are they trying to say to me? It's a much easier way to live. So check out the A Word. The parents are doing some really good modeling of behavior at this point, because they're starting to get it. I don't have to get upset about this, and it is going to be okay. All right, we are going to take a break, and I think that when we come back, we are going to be joined by a fabulous young woman who is going to be talking with us about a new project that she's working called The Elephant in the Room. How do we go about, and when do we go about, telling individuals on the autism spectrum, our young kids, when do we tell them, how do we tell them that they are on the spectrum? When is it productive? So Amanda Smith is going to tell us what she's doing to try to figure out what is the best way to do this and when is the best time to do it. Stick with us.
Nick was diagnosed with autism in 1994 at the age of 4. He received 5 years of therapy from CARD that eventually faded out. Nick recovered from autism in 2001.
The song I'm about to perform is by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. CARD helped many patients, myself, to recover to this level now.
Cheryl and Mike's son, Jack Riley, was diagnosed with autism in 2010 at age 2. He's been receiving therapy from CARD for a year and a half. Today, Cheryl, Mike, and Nick meet for the first time.
I'm curious as to what you remember.
I certainly remember pretty long sessions, and I'd be frustrated if I would make mistakes. I mean, I remember one time I had to count a row of 6 blocks, kept messing up. That was really difficult.
No. I need it, but I need it.
At what point do you recall hearing the word autism?
I was able to figure out what I was going through without anybody having to tell me.
Our concern is if it's a big secret to hide. I don't know what we can say.
No one ever told you, you just discerned
But the
it?
reason I'm comfortable talking about this is because I felt it in therapy, I certainly began questioning why people reacted as they did based on what I said and did. Particularly because of difficulties I was facing in school, it got to a point where I wanted to understand why it was. I entered while still going through therapy and still showing significant signs of the mental condition. Even after I'd improved to a significant extent, there were those who still gave me a hard time for it.
Did it hurt your feelings when you were in school, the way
It
that
did.
kids...
Oh, absolutely, because it was bullying, it was harassment.
That scares us.
They called me names. I was basically, when it came to sports and PE, I was usually the last kid chosen.
Did teachers intervene?
Fortunately, not really. I mean, it was just so hard for me to talk about it because of how ashamed I felt. Certainly the first few years of elementary school, I don't think I really had the most supportive teachers. I mean, I remember my mom told me how my first grade teacher once said that she thought I had no chance of getting anywhere. And going away to college and out of state and being the only person for my old school district has made a difference. It's just really improved my social life tremendously because I got to be me, because with nobody knowing about my past, I wasn't faced with these misconceptions and prejudgments.
Do you tell people, new people that you meet?
No, that's not the first thing I will ever
No, I would
tell
hope it's not the
and
first
then,
thing.
You know what? In most cases, I never do, because while it's a part of my past, it doesn't define who I am. I mean, just thinking back to the very beginning, pretty much each episode, autism, what, not who.
I want to tell you right now, though, I'm so impressed with you.
Likewise.
I want you to know.
Likewise. I mean, your son really inspires me just as much because I'll tell you anytime.
I adore him, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't challenging.
I mean,
it's cost me the stuff that like career things, goals. I don't care about those anymore. I work at night. I'm tending bar. Not that I'm too good for that. I'm just saying that's what I do. I want him to have a chance.
Right.
And you inspire me now.
Thank you. The feeling goes both ways. The feeling's mutual.
Before you leave today, we would like you to meet Jack.
I would love to.
This is Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, Jack Riley.
All right, should we try this? I'm gonna try to take a picture of all of you. 1, 2, and 3.
Jack Riley, you rock.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're so thrilled that we have joining us via Skype Amanda Smith. She is a student getting her PhD, working on a really important project that I think you guys are going to be interested in. It is the Elephant in the Room project. So first of all, Amanda, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And you are at the University of Calgary, correct?
Yes, I am.
All right. So tell us, what is the Elephant in the Room project?
So I guess really the project itself is that many parents and families struggle with the decision of whether or not to tell their child or when to tell their child about their autism diagnosis. And so what we're trying to do is we have an online survey going right now, and it's a 3-tiered survey. So we have one survey for parents, one for professionals, and one for individuals that are on the spectrum themselves. And just talking about, when, how, and if to tell their child about their autism spectrum diagnosis and how to go about doing that. And really just looking at parent experiences and professional experiences of actually disclosing to the individual themselves about their diagnosis. So with that said, we have an online survey going right now, and that survey can be found at www.ucalgary.ca, and then a backslash and ASERT, so ASERT, and a backslash again, discussion. So ASERT stands for the Autism Spectrum Research and Education Training Group, and that's under the direction of Dr. Adam McCrimmon at the University of Calgary. So he's my supervisor on this project, but we're really excited to start hearing from parents and professionals and individuals about their experiences talking about their diagnosis.
Wonderful. And so for individuals who are on the spectrum, they need to be 18 years or older, correct?
They don't actually, but what it is that if they are younger, they have to have parent consent, of course. So their parent or they must contact us directly, and there's an email right directly on that website that they can email us, and then we can provide them with the link to complete the survey once we know that their parents are okay with them participating.
Okay, and so there's no cost to participate, and you're going to gather all this information, and at some point you're going to be able to tell us what you've discovered, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, our aim is to make a publicly available resource, I guess, for families and parents who are considering talking to their child about their diagnosis, and just really elaborating and sharing the experiences of other families that have already gone through that process.
Wonderful. And the website again
is www.ucalgary, so UCALGARY.ca, and then a /ACERT, ASERT, another /, and then the word discussion.
Wonderful. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back and have some questions about this project and what really spurred Amanda to want to work on this elephant in the room that we all know all too well. So stick with us.
Learn the early signs of autism today, because an early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Hey, I made your favorite.
With real egg noodles and bite-sized chicken, Campbell's Chicken Noodle Soup is the one kids love. Mmm, good.
Come and get this on.
Thanks. Stream your favorite content when you want. AT&T.
He didn't speak till he was almost 5. There's a time when my wife and I just didn't think we'd ever have a conversation with him, and now he can build and program computers from scratch. We kind of really consider Reese a huge success story.
Sounds like you got a pretty good dad, too.
Yeah, he is a really awesome dad.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We've been talking with Amanda Smith. She is a student getting her PhD up at the University of Calgary, and she is an integral part of a study being called the Elephant in the Room Project. They're looking for parents of individuals who are on the autism spectrum, practitioners who are working with individuals on the spectrum, and individuals who are on the spectrum who would like to answer an online survey about when and how they either decided to talk about autism or not to talk about autism. So first of all, Amanda, I want to know what inspired this project?
Well, I mean, I guess it's just that many families really struggle with the decisions pertaining to how and when to share that topic and to have that conversation or series of conversations with their child. And so I know we've had a lot, myself and Dr. McCrimmon, of parents approach us just asking about how to share that diagnosis. And so that was, I know, part of the reason why we came up with this idea to look at this, but it's just also, it doesn't exist in the research literature about trying to help families and individuals themselves have that conversation. So I guess that's really why we started this project.
Well, I think it's a brilliant idea, and I have parents ask me all the time about how and when did I decide to talk to my son about autism, and I like to know for other people how and when they decided to or not to. Excuse me, we made the choice really young to talk with our son about it. And I think for him, that was a good choice because of who he is. But I totally understand other parents who want to wait, and even some parents who've decided not to talk about it. It's a pretty individual thing, but kind of fascinating to know all the different ways and the reasons why people do what they do. You've already had a great deal of parents participate in your study, but you're really looking for a sample all over the world, correct?
Yeah, we're collecting worldwide right now. So we don't just have participants in Canada, but we have a lot that are in the United States, in New Zealand, Australia, in the UK, Ireland, kind of all over the place. We're looking to really broaden that as much as possible and really get a diverse group of parents that have filled out the survey.
Are you already seeing some trends in terms of what people are saying about when they decided to say and what they decided to say?
Yeah, I guess, we are, and I started doing some interviews with some parents here in Alberta as well to try and get a little bit more information about their experiences. And, a lot of parents really, age is a big factor, as well as, talking about functioning level and, will my child understand, or when might be the right time to discuss it with them, and really just making sure that they do understand that everyone has strengths and differences, and that it's really a process of just sharing more about that person as opposed to putting a label or giving something that's meant to be harmful at all. So that's what a lot of parents have been saying so far, but it's so individual and just specific for every family and child to decide when's appropriate to talk with a child about their diagnosis.
Yeah, I would think that the one through line would be that however you do it, whenever you do it, if you do it, you've got to keep it as positive as possible.
Yeah, of course.
As I said, for our son, we told him very early because my fear was I didn't want him to hear it from someone else. And we were in a very big intervention, and he was being mainstreamed. And my true fear was that he would hear it from somebody else and that they wouldn't put the positive spin on it. And we had great success with that. And because we told him so early, he was able to understand what we told him. But because we told him so early, it just was a fact in our house. It wasn't something that had any stigma attached to it. It just was what it was. But again, I always reserve judgment because our kids are so individual. I don't think it can be a one-size-fits-all. But a project like what you're doing, which takes a huge sample, and I can't wait until you come up and publish your findings, because it will inform so many of us about all the different ways in which we can disclose this.
Well, and that's exactly it too, is that we want to publish, of course, for, research and for people that are doing research in autism to know, but more than ever, we want to make, a publicly available resource for families to access themselves. That's not, you don't have to pay to access the service. Knowledge is power. So to have that available for families, I think will be really useful.
I think it's a great idea, and I appreciate you so much doing this. Will you tell us the website one more time for people to go to if they want to participate?
Yeah, absolutely. It's www.ucalgary.ca, and then a backslash, and the word ASERT, ASERT, another backslash, and then the word discussion. And that takes you right to the elephant in the room page about talking to children with ASD about their diagnosis.
Wonderful. So when do you expect to have your PhD?
It's probably about another 3 years from now, so I'll be working on this project over the next couple of years.
Okay, really incredible. And then what do you want to do with that PhD? What's the long game plan for Amanda Smith?
I really want to continue working with, I should say, individuals and families that are on the spectrum. I've done a lot of work for about the last 8 years with individuals on the spectrum, both children and adults and adolescents and their families as well. So I want to keep doing that, as well as working with children with, mental health and other challenges as well. So really
Wonderful.
Just providing for all families and children.
Well, bless you. We're so glad that you're a part of our community, and thank you so much for this really interesting study. I think it's going to be very informative, and for all the work that you do.
And thank you so much, Shannon, for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. All right. You have a great week.
Thank you. You too.
And so again, that was Amanda Smith. This is called the Elephant in the Room Project, talking to children about their ASD diagnosis. I hope that you'll all take the opportunity to fill out their survey and be a voice in this sea of people, because I'm sure that it will help others coming behind us. It's just another way of giving back. We're going to take a break and be back after these messages.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Lisa Ackerman with TACA. We're here with the TACA Facts, the most common questions in the autism journey, real life questions and answers for your family. Oh boy, this one gets me in trouble. I get this question probably at least a dozen times a week, but how do I get my significant other on board? Whether it's having ABA done in your home, 5 days a week, speech therapy, or even biomedical intervention. I'm talking to you as a parent. It happened to me in the autism journey 3 years after diagnosis. I felt like I'd been through a war zone. I don't have pictures. I don't remember those 3 years. It was awful, and I'm surprised my husband and I made it out of that war zone. So here's some of the tips that helped me get through those 3 years and made it a better marriage, because he's the one I want to be with. First thing you need to do, and this goes for dudes and chicks, replace all the bathroom reading material. Now, whether you just had an independent evaluation with a neuropsychologist, or you just went to your doctor, your MAPS doctor, to help your child get through some serious medical issues, replace the labs, replace the neuropsych eval, and put that all in the bathroom. That's where we do our best reading and thinking, after all. It's one of the most simplistic things that you can do, but literally replace all the bathroom reading material. 2, very important that twice a year you have a meeting and you schedule it with your spouse to say, we're going to do the next 6 months of planning, whether it's just create a quick list, identify the issues or the self-stimulatory behavior or the things that you need to do to help your child with autism make the project. Let me give you an example. We created the Man Project. My son was becoming a teenager, and we found ourselves living a little bit in a rut, babying him a little too much. So what we did was we created a Man Project, and we identified a list of the skills and the things that we wanted my son or our son to learn. We agreed to it, and then we came up with a plan that we could activate over the next 6 months. And my next favorite. Don't forget to have sex with your spouse. Often you will feel disconnected with the person that you love. And if you're not connected with them, you're not connected with them in that way. You're not connecting with them in your autism journey. So my husband laughs, he calls me Dr. Ruth, so I'm giving you a coupon to please just go have sex with your spouse. That will help move things along, but also make it a little more cohesive in a house of chaos, living with autism. So hi, this is Lisa signing out as Dr. Ruth. No, I'm just kidding. Lisa Ackerman with TACA, and we'll talk to you at the next TACA Facts.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I wanted to take a couple of seconds to talk about some questions that we had come in over the weekend. Somebody asked, whatever happened to the Arizona CARD study? For those of you who aren't familiar, there was a study that was being done in the state of Arizona that was a 2-year project to, I believe that it started after the insurance kicked in, that there was some funding that was available for children on the autism spectrum that they wanted to see if they could replicate, for instance, the LOVAS study and show the insurance companies that it really was beneficial and cost effective. Because, you know, for years, insurance companies had said that they didn't have to cover autism treatment, they didn't have to cover ABA, they didn't have to cover anything because there wasn't anything that was proven to be effective. And the argument always was, well, there was the LOVAS study, and then there was another study, and then there was another study, and another study, and they just kept piling up, right? So the state of Arizona is often credited with being the first state that had autism insurance coverage. They weren't, but they were very public about it and mindful about the fact that they were saying ABA in particular was the thing that they were going to look at. But the legislators said, we'd like to have a study done to show that, you know, we should continue to fund this. So CARD had a study that they did on a group of children to see if they could replicate the LOVAS experiment. They did. I wish I could tell you the exact percentage. I believe it was 46% of the kids within 2 years recovered. They no longer qualified. What I mean by recovered, they no longer qualified for an autism diagnosis. That doesn't necessarily mean that they had no trace of anything that was different, but they didn't qualify by the criteria. They were fully mainstreamed in their classes with no additional supports and needed no additional things happening. So the study was only meant to be a 2-year study, so it's not as though anything happened to it. It's there and you can find that study online, but it was only intended and funded to be a 2-year study. And it was instrumental in making sure that autism insurance reform continued in Arizona. We see that a state will get a mandate and that then they check back in a couple of years and say, did this really serve anybody? Did this really help anybody? I wish we could get to the point where we're not just quantifying that as being something that a child has to recover in order for us to consider that it was worthwhile. It really tears tears my ticket as an autism parent when there are articles that say, well, not all the kids recover, so is it really worthwhile to fund these things? My child is one of the children who is not yet deemed recovered, and I can tell you with every fiber of my being that it was worthwhile to give him those treatments, because now he's a child who will be a productive member of society. He will go to college, he will have a job, and he will pay taxes, right? And if we had not given him treatment, I have no doubt that he would be somebody who would need such additional support that it would be wildly more expensive than the treatment that the regional center paid for him. So, you know, and when we talk about kids who are profoundly affected by autism, who maybe don't make as much progress, because all of our kids are going to make a different amount of progress, but when you talk to those parents and say, my child is able to communicate with me now on an iPad, really, you're going to put a dollar amount on that and say, well, that's not enough progress? You know, you got a long line of autism parents to get through before you're going to get to that moment. Or somebody who says, well, you know, these kids didn't have substantive progress because all they learned was toilet training. Oh, let's talk about that. Because when your child on the autism spectrum is 14 years old and you're still dealing with diapers, your life is vastly different than if your child can toilet themselves. It's vastly different for the entire family, and it's vastly different for that individual who deserves respect and treatment to be able to help them communicate and take care of their own bodily functions. Don't even get me started, right? All of our kids, all of our young adults, all of our adults deserve those kinds of interventions so that they can have the dignity in their lives. And to quantify and say that's not enough progress gets me really heated, because who are they to decide how much progress is worthwhile? I wish that those people would be sentenced to be in a home where somebody has 4 kids who are on the autism spectrum who are not yet potty trained, and they have to stay for at least a week. That's what I hope for people who say that. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox and hopefully not sprain my ankle. Okay, and many of you wrote in about the MMR vaccine and Dr. Thompson leaking the cover-up. We covered that a little bit earlier. We're going to keep you posted on that. But the next question that I want to get to, somebody says, I need to find resources to help a child with Asperger's. Her family is overwhelmed. I feel we are losing this little girl due to lack of money. We live in Austin, Texas. I am her grandmother. I suspect her mom may have autism as well. They just didn't have the understanding about this during the 80s. Okay, first of all, Grandma, I'm sending you an air hug here. Because no, the resources weren't there in the 80s and you couldn't have known, and it's very possible that her mother is somewhere on the spectrum as well. I always love to remind all of us that puppies don't have kittens. And let's be honest, all of us in life are, you know, I look at the autism spectrum as being this big, huge space that is filled with rainbows. And you know, and rainbows are sometimes more difficult to take, right? But that all of us are somewhere on this continuum, right? We all have idiosyncrasies, we all have quirks, right? But some of them disable some of us, right? And that's when we get into more diagnosing a disorder of autism. So, you know, I don't doubt for a second that there's a possibility that the mom is on the spectrum or is having some issues as well. But forgive yourself first out the gate for not knowing that back in the 80s, because almost no one knew what to do in the 80s. But let's get some help for this young girl now so that you don't lose her. The good news is that you told me where you are, and you're in Austin, Texas, and there is a card office in Austin, and there is insurance reform in Texas. So unless you are with a self-funded plan, in all likelihood, there is insurance coverage for this girl. So I want to encourage you to go to centerforautism.com. There's an 800 number that's there. I want you to call the 800 number and tell them that you're interested in getting services in the Austin, Texas card office. And you can tell them, I'm concerned because I feel like we're losing this girl. We you know, she's got Asperger's, and I think that the mom has some issues too. What can you help us with? Because you say here, I feel like we're losing this little girl to lack of money. They will be able to figure out what your insurance will cover. They will help you to get through that. They also will let you know about Act Today if you need a grant for something. But get that ball started. Call that phone number, talk to them, tell them that I sent you on that 800 number, and let's start to get this young girl the help that she needs so that we don't lose another day with her. And honestly, if mom starts to see what's happening and how they're helping her, she may have some emotions about it, right? Because mom has found a way to exist enough with whatever she has going on that it works for her. And it may be upsetting to her to suggest that there is another way to do it. Be patient with that. And if she sees that her daughter is doing enough, she may get interested in trying some of these techniques as well. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for you that it all goes well for you with your daughter or the mom. I don't know if the mom is your daughter, but definitely call that number go to centerforautism.com. There is a toll-free number there. Call that and tell them that you want services in the Austin, Texas office. They're actually getting ready to open a second office in Austin, Texas. So a great place to be in for autism, by the way. Austin is a hub of a lot of different services. So I feel confident that as she gets a little bit older too, you're going to have access to more resources. As you know, if you told me you were in Dallas, I would have had more concern. But the fact that you're in Austin, I have great hope. And then do me a favor and let me know how things go, okay? Because I will worry. And if you need any more help and support, just give a shout out, all right? We're going to take a break and we're going to be back to close out the show, so stick with us.
Hello, fellow activists. Let's talk about step 6, live in gratitude and give back. Have you ever noticed that it's impossible to feel sorry for yourself when you focus on your blessings? I have an exercise for you. Take out 5 pennies. I want each penny to represent something you're thankful for today. Now, I bet not one of those pennies represented something material, but that every one of them represented someone you love or a moment you shared with that someone.
Go through life parched and empty, standing knee deep in a river and dying of thirst.
There's a song by Kathy Mattea called Standing Knee Deep in a River and Dying of Thirst. Sometimes we need to look at the river of blessings flowing underneath us, and then we see we're not so thirsty after all. Once you realize how fortunate you are, you can freely give back to others. And there's nothing that will make you feel more fortunate than giving to those less fortunate than you. So start your day with an attitude of gratitude. And until next time, keep the faith.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Quick programming note. Some of you may have been tuning in today hoping to see Paula Pampas-Craven, from Easter Seals. She has had to postpone when she's going to be on the show, and she'll be with us on September 16th. So stay tuned for more information about that. But we will have her from the Easter Seals on talking about their program. We're going to focus a little bit more on social skills than anything else. We're answering your questions as they come in about whatever they're in, but we're trying to shed a little bit light on social skills. Our jargon for today was joint attention. I wanted to go through kind of quickly because social skills is one of those things that I think a lot of people get overwhelmed and they think, well, I don't know what to do, because a lot of it seems like it would just be intuitive. I think back to, have you seen yet the movie The Story of Luke? Okay, you have to get it on Amazon or on, I don't know if it's on Netflix, but I know that it's on Amazon. It's a beautiful movie, and Lou Taylor Pucci plays this young man who is on the autism spectrum, who through a series of events in his life, he's having to go live with family members because his grandmother has passed away. And so he goes to live with a relative that he hasn't spent much time with, and it's an adjustment period for everybody. And he's trying to work a job. So he goes to work a job, and Seth Green is going to be the person who's going to introduce him to his job. And Seth Green is also somebody who's on the autism spectrum, but in a different way on the spectrum. And they have this interaction. And when the movie came out, what I remember is that Seth Green went on the Conan O'Brien show, and you know, they always show a clip from a film, and they showed this particular clip where the two of them are standing there, and Seth Green pulls over Lou Taylor Pucci and says, "Watch this. You're not even going to believe this." And they're looking through the blinds at two of the people at the place where they're working, a man and a woman standing by the water cooler. And Seth Green narrates all of the things that are happening and says, "Now watch. She's going to touch her hair. And now he's going to make eye contact. And now he's going to stick his hand in his pocket. And now he touches his tie. And now she does this. And that's the cue that he's supposed to ask her out. And now they're doing this." And he narrates the whole thing almost as you would expect someone like Jane Goodall to be talking about two primates, right, that are getting ready to engage in some behavior. He really takes it down to, he does this behavior, she does this behavior. That's the signal that she's interested. That's his signal that he's interested. And he's showing Lou Taylor Pucci, this is how people get a date, right? And it's very illuminating. So they show this clip on Conan. They come back from the break, and Conan says, "Oh my gosh, I need to know this information because I wouldn't have known all that," right? And it just brought home and reminded, and everybody laughed, but it was true. It was true. How many 18-year-old boys would know all the interchanges that happen around social circumstances? And sometimes we just intuitively figure something out, and sometimes intuitively our kids figure things out. But even our neurotypical kids, and even us, there are moments that we just fail socially. We just can't figure it out. We just fail, and we go, oh, and our self-esteem is bad, and we go, I don't know why I don't know how to do that. How does that person know how to do that? The truth of the matter is that no one, there are people who are very good at social skills, and maybe they know more of the skills, but nobody just organically absorbs all of the social rules and then can maintain them as society changes. Because let's talk about how different life is now that there's texting etiquette. I have no idea what some of these things are, right? My son is educating me about them. So society changes, and depending on where you live in the world, there are different socially acceptable behaviors as opposed to someplace else. Dr. Grampiche was talking last week about how in some places in the Middle East, how men constantly carry a ring of beads that's almost like a rosary, and that they play with them, and that's totally acceptable there. And here, if somebody was doing that, people would go, "What are you doing?" Right? All different. I always love Kathy Griffin talking about when she went to Pakistan, and that she wanted to shake hands with all the men to show them that she was a woman and that she was on the same level and she could shake hands with them. And they were all delighted to shake hands with her. They were thrilled to shake hands with her, thought it was hilarious to shake hands with her. And then she found out that men there typically wipe themselves with their hand, and that's seen as a disrespect thing to shake hands, right? So knowing what the social rules are really important depending on where you are and what's acceptable. Okay, so we should immediately then let go of the idea that we're all born and we have this all front-loaded. And if we let go of that and say we're all students, but some of us have more to learn in this area and some of us have more to learn in that area, and for kids on the autism spectrum, maybe they have even more lessons to learn, but there's no downer in that, right? It's all teachable. And I really take issue when people say, oh, but if we're having to teach it, then it's going to be, it won't be their skill and it'll just be something that they put on. We all do that. We all do that. We have a way that we behave when we're at a cocktail party, which is not the way we behave at a party with 2-year-olds, right? And is that us being fake? I guess to a certain degree, but we make our peace with that, right? And then we have a different way that we are when we're home and we take off our shoes and we're just ourselves. And I really want to be somebody who makes the case for our kids to know we behave this in this arena and we behave this way, but that we always give them a safe place where they can come home and at least have some times when they don't have to be quote unquote on, right? We all need a little bit of that. So I wanted to take just a minute and go through some of the many lessons that are available in the Skills social curriculum, because Skills is an online tool that gives you a curriculum that's science-based, evidence-based, and can help you to know what order to teach things in and to identify this is where a gap is and this is where I want to teach. You can get a free trial to look at Skills, and I just wanted to go through some of the different lessons, and I'm just figuring out where I want to go to find that. So I'm going into the START assessment and going into the social curriculum so that I can go down the list of some of the different things that it teaches. For instance, we talked about this earlier, that eye contact is one of the biggest things that if we, nobody needs to make scary eye contact where they're just focusing. But let's face it, you miss information if you take eye contact out of something. There was a study that they did recently where they took a bunch of sports figures and they put a black bar over their eyes and asked people to identify what were they feeling. And they were wrong overwhelmingly most of the time, because without the eyes, something that was celebratory looked like it was anguish. Right? So the eyes are the window of the soul, and we have to, not only does it help give information, but if you don't make eye contact, a lot of times it's a big social turnoff for people. So we need to at least empower our kids to be able to do it when it's appropriate. Right? So we teach eye contact. We teach non-vocal imitation. Oh, what a great skill this is, so that our kids pick things up from other people around them. We'll see later on that there's learning through observation, but the first part of this is non-vocal imitation, so that if I do something, that the child is able to do it as well, without any instruction to be able to do it. Then a joint attention, which we talked about, gaining attention. That's exactly what we were showing today in the A word, how they've begun to teach this, and we're going to see in next week's A word as well, how they make progress on appropriately gaining somebody else's attention, which really is the beginning of being able to communicate your needs. Social referencing, being able to put it together and say, okay, so I'm in this place, this is what's allowed here, and understand what's happening in those moments. Being assertive so that you're not giving up, but when are you being too pushy, right? It's a very fine line. Personal information, so that when somebody says to our kids, what's your name? Where do you live? How old are you? What's your teacher's name? When's your birthday? Those kinds of things. What's your mom's name? What's your dad's name? What's your telephone number? All of those things that are so important. It's important for self-esteem for the individual to be able to report that information, but it's a bigger issue. It's a safety issue, right? We saw with Romario Snow, who was missing on the streets of Los Angeles, an 18-year-old missing on the streets of Los Angeles. He didn't have that to the place where he could communicate it either through writing or through speech. We've got to find a way to be able to have our kids communicate that. And honestly, for our little ones, it's one of the gateways to communication. So a lot of times they'll be around an adult and they'll say, hi, honey, what's your name? And if the child is able to say, my name is Gertrude, right, then the conversation continues. If they're not able to say that or to sign that or to put it on the iPad, it shuts down the social interaction and it can't get any further. So we want to grease the skids there. Greetings and salutations, being able to say hello and goodbye. This is such a great lesson, and it teaches it in such a fun way. Basic social cues, being able to recognize when somebody does this, what am I supposed to do, right? A lot of times that nonverbal communication is something that the kids really miss. I love, and I've had to work on this a lot with Jem because he didn't get it. I love when, parents do that thing about, I'm watching you, and kids understand what that means. Jem used to do the thing where I would make a gesture and I'd poke and I would say, this or whatever. And he would go, what? What are you saying to me? What? And I'm trying to be quiet while he's in the classroom. And I'm doing the tick-a-lock, all the things that I was taught as a child. It meant nothing to him. So we had to practice it at home. It was actually kind of fun. Sharing and turn-taking, that's a big part of being part of a social interaction. Positive self-statements, being able to say, I'm good at this. That builds on self-esteem. Prosody, being able to have their voices express what they're doing. The Ben Stein commercials where he says, it's wonderful. And if you just were listening to what he was saying, you wouldn't know how he really felt. Some of our kids need to be taught that when they're asking a question, they have to upward inflect. Some of them need to be taught that when they're excited, they have to pitch their voice up, right? Or they have to speak a little bit faster. So we have lessons for that. Responding in unison, especially for those kindergarten and preschool things where the teacher says, class, class, are we ready? And they say, yes, teacher. And if our kid is on a delay and doesn't say it or says it 3 minutes later, and then the other kids notice, and it prevents the social interaction. General knowledge. This is exactly what I was talking about earlier about my husband and I going to the party about, okay, what's everybody going to be talking about? What are the big cases, big things in the news, and what are safe topics? What are topics we want to stay away from? Our kids have to be front-loaded with enough general knowledge. I remember early on, I said there was going to be no SpongeBob, and we went to one of the first little parties, and everybody was like, you be Patrick, and I'll be SpongeBob, and my child, they might have as well have said, you be Thithner, he had no reference point. We have to make sure that our kids have enough ways that they can connect with other kids. I know there are many people out there who think video games are horrible. I don't know where I am on that, but it gives a social entree for my son and for other, especially the boys. It's a leveler. You play Minecraft, and then you got a conversation going on, right? Following rules, how important is that? A say-do correspondence. If I say I'm going to do this, then I need to do it. On both ends of that the child learns that somebody else says they're going to do it, and then they do it, and they learn that if they say they're going to do it, then they need to go and do it. Politeness and manners. I love that that's in here, because what we find is that our kids who go through ABA are the politest kids. They have the best manners. We didn't teach my son this, but he does this little bow thing whenever he's talking to somebody. They ask him what his name is, and he says, my name is Jem. And he does this little bow thing, and everybody goes, oh, what a sweet young man. It's kind of hilarious. And he started doing it when we started taking him to chess club, that he would bow before doing, he would say to somebody, would you like to play? And they would say yes, and he would bow, and then he would sit down to play them. I just think it's wonderful. And he's starting to be aware enough to hold doors, and he gets it that that's currency, especially with girls, that a girl likes it when you hold the door open for him. I love that he gets that. Learning through observation, the big one that I was talking about before. This is so when kids walk into a bank and they're like being loud, being loud, being loud, and they walk in and they notice, wait a second, what's everybody else doing? Everybody else is being quiet. I guess there must be a social rule here that says people should be quiet. I'm going to lower my voice and continue to check out, what are they doing? Oh, they're getting in that line. Do I need to be in that line? We don't want them to be lemmings, but they need to have a certain awareness of what's going on around them in order to socially be able to navigate the situation. Compliments, being able to give appropriate compliments. What a great thing to do. Introductions, how to introduce somebody. Initiating conversation. For some people, this is the hardest thing in the world. Now, the second one is the one that I still struggle with, and when I read this lesson, I went, oh, I need this, and I'm working on it, but ending a conversation. I don't know how to get out of a conversation. Body language and facial expressions so that you understand. I love that our social experts talk about when someone's shoes are pointing away from you, that means they want to leave, that they want to get out of the conversation. Repairing a conversation, because sometimes you start a conversation, it gets all wonky. This happens to me all the time. I'll be on the phone with somebody and I'll ask them a question, they answer another question, and I got to backtrack, repair the conversation. Sometimes I even have to say, let's start over. Let me ask a different question, right? Listening to conversation. Listening is a very big deal. Community rules, complex social cues, gestures to regulate social interaction, figures of speech, apologizing, compromise, collaboration and negotiation, dealing with conflict, physical context of conversation, maintaining conversation, group discussions, humor and jokes, levels of friendship and relationships, winning and losing, regulating others, borrowing and lending, joining a conversation, putting it all together, and constructive criticism. And that's not even all the lessons that are available in the social curriculum in skills. But here's the thing. This is what happens. Sometimes we see this long list and we go, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to teach all those things? You don't need to teach all of these things. You need to start at the exact moment where the person in your life needs the first lesson. And that might be eye contact. It might be somewhere along the line. What I love about skills is that you answer the assessment questions and it tells you, here are the lessons that we recommend, and they're numbered so that you can start with the earliest one and you can look at what are the precursors to that lesson that need to be on board before you're going to be successful teaching that lesson. And then you can just go in order. But what you find frequently, what many people find, is that when you go back and fill fill in an early skill that was missing, you jump skills that you don't have to teach other things because your child already has the skills there. They just needed that one little component, and then they go, whoop, now I'm on lesson 42. It's kind of an amazing thing. And then, you find, oh, I got to go back and do this. But it's a fascinating thing. So again, I encourage you, check this out on Skills. You can do a 14-day free trial. They have 2 different kinds of trials, a regular trial and a light trial. Many people don't like to do, if you do the regular trial, they will ask for your credit card. And at the end of 14 days, it will automatically start charging you the monthly fee. A lot of people don't like to do that. They don't want to give a credit card because they don't want to have to remember in case they decide to cancel it. So there is something called the Skills Light Trial. It doesn't give you access to everything, but it gives you access to things so that you can see exactly what you would get from Skills. And that is not with a credit card. And then you can make your own choice when and if you want to do it. The nice thing about doing the full one is if you see that you like it and you're already in and you're doing the assessment, then it's just smooth and you go through and it carries over as you start to do it. Because once you start taking the assessment, you're going to want to keep that work. You only have to answer those questions once. So we're out of time, but I encourage you to check it out. That's just one of the things that you can do on Skills. There are so many more things that you can do on Skills besides use the curriculum. We've talked about the BIP Builder before, so I'm a huge fan of Skills. I know it's a little on the sickening side. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about tomorrow because we've got a couple of things going on. Dr. Dorian Grandpichet is going to be here with us. We've already got some questions, but I'll take more questions for tomorrow with Dr. Grandpichet. And I love that we got some follow-up from last week, some successful ones. So, and then we don't believe that we're going to be here for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy tomorrow. So we're going to play an oldie but a goodie. Very timely, an interview that we did with Dr. Wakefield, Dr. Andrew Wakefield, about the Alex Sportolakis, because our guest next week is going to be from the Dr. Phil Show. We're out of time. Until tomorrow, give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.